Hello, everyone. My name is Sarah Grace Taylor. I'm the City and County Government Reporter for the Times Free Press. I'm here with Tim Kelly, who's running for mayor. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. So, Tim, would you first tell us a little bit about yourself? What qualifies you to run for this role, and what would your highest priority be?
Yes. So again, my name is Tim Kelly. I grew up here in Chattanooga, raised my family here, raised my kids here, except for 4 years in New York in school. I've spent my whole life here, certainly the last 32 years of my professional life. Most folks know me as a small business person. I've owned and operated and started quite a few small businesses here. But I've also spent 30 years in the nonprofit world. So everything from, been on a lot of boards, done a ton of community volunteer work, everything from Big Brothers Big Sisters to the Community Foundation, where I was the chairman recently, and a lot in between. And look, I've had a front row seat for a lot of the problems that face Chattanooga. I've dealt with a ton of crises, and I've run large organizations and large budgets. And I think that makes me really uniquely qualified among the other candidates in the race to lead Chattanooga out of this COVID crisis and into the future.
Got it. So, our first questions will be about the budget. And the first question is, the city is estimated to lose $8 million in revenue due to the COVID-19 pandemic in the 2021 fiscal year. As mayor, how would you balance a difficult budget year in fiscal year 2022 or after under the stress caused by COVID?
Well, as I said, I've got a tremendous amount of experience managing large budgets and multi-million dollar budgets in multiple businesses. I've taught new venture creation at UTC as well, so I get all sides of it, and I know how to manage a budget. I know how to manage a budget well. It's been 16 years since we had a mayor with a small business background or business background at all. And I would emphasize that those estimates are probably wrong. All the data indicates that sales taxes are actually up, and collections through the first half of this fiscal year actually show, look, there's some problems depending on where you land on open versus closed with how things have gone. But the fact of the matter is our sales tax collections aren't down. And I think a lot of those projections were a little too dire. So I'm quite hopeful that we can accomplish a lot of our budget priorities with the current budget.
As we near a year since the virus hit Chattanooga, businesses and individuals within the city are struggling due to COVID-19 as well. How would you provide aid to those businesses and families hit hardest by the pandemic's economic impact? Are there programs in place you'd want to keep, and what other programs would you add?
Well, yes. Look, again, getting back to crisis management and small business, I think what we have to do is maximize, our state and federal aid dollars. We're leaving some grant money on the table that we could be maximizing more, and I would create a one-stop shop for small businesses that would provide resources. Again, this is something I know very well, having started many small businesses myself and having taught at UTC, having a place there where small business can access state and federal resources to help with the PPP loans and other grants, and to connect them to resources to restart and get the loans they need, and any other resources they need to get rolling again, it would be my first priority.
Paving and transportation consistently rank at the top of citizen concerns, according to annual studies by the city. What transportation or infrastructural goals would you have if elected to mayor?
Well, yeah, I've got a lot of comments about our TV ads regarding potholes, and they're partially, they're meant to be funny, obviously, but it really isn't a joke. I mean, particularly if you live out in the suburban areas of the city, you're not really getting a ton for your tax dollars other than public safety, and parking, paving, and potholes are a big priority for us for that very reason. So we think by renegotiating some contracts and by using some innovative methods, we can actually do more paving this summer than we've done in any summer in the last 20 years. So we look very forward to getting caught up, to fixing a lot of potholes and doing a lot of paving across the city. And we can do that within the current budget.
So now we'll ask some questions related to business and the economy. The first question is, city labor unions and many activists support a $15 minimum wage for city employees. which Mayor Burke had intended to support before COVID. Do you support this or any other specific pay increase plans for city employees? Why or why not?
I do support the $15 an hour wage for city employees. And look, it's a living wage for one thing, so it's some of it is a fairness issue. But the other important issue for me, really coming at this from a business perspective, is look, we need the best people in government. There's a really great book I read a couple months ago called The Wake Up Call, and the point of the book was Asian economies are recovering much quicker than we are here from COVID, because they have some of their best and brightest in government roles. We need to get past this false dichotomy that all the best minds are in the private world here. Look, the $15 hour wage is important to attract the best people to the city. Our police and our fire also need a raise, and they're behind on the raise. And because the budget isn't as off as badly as was feared, we would make that a priority, as well as Head Start teachers. Early childhood education is a big passion of mine, and through a strange federal loophole, Head Start teachers are paid at some of the lowest rates of any of our government employees here, and they need a raise as well.
In 2019, 40% of Chattanooga's households were housing cost burdened, meaning that they pay more than 30% of their income for housing and may struggle to afford other necessities. How would you address affordable housing as mayor?
Well, this is a really critical issue, Sarah Grace, and this is one that is not easy, right? It's not an easy one to solve. The average renter in Chattanooga makes $14.23 an hour, which translates to about $750 a month in rent. And yet the average rent is $1,100 a month. So, and this problem will probably only get worse with a lot of, everybody's heard in Chattanooga about folks moving in here from out of town and pushing up housing prices further. Well, job growth certainly hasn't kept up here, and wage growth hasn't kept up here. So we have to create, and I would work really closely with C&E and private and public and foundation dollars to really create capital pools to create affordable housing. We've got to increase the supply of affordable housing. Some of this has to do with making it easier for people to build in Chattanooga. I think builders would tell you that the regulatory environment in Chattanooga is part of the problem. I had a builder tell me the other day that to create new housing in Chattanooga cannot be affordable housing, and that's got to change. So we've got to make it easier for them. Lastly, I would just say the city owns around 1,000 properties across the city that we need to unlock and put back into circulation. And it's the land bank, but we've done nothing with it for the last few years, and that could be a great boost of supply for affordable housing. So, look, one of the things I would do is split economic development and community development at the city, and really task the community development department with affordable housing, growing affordable housing first and foremost.
At the same time, a number of other Chattanoogans experience homelessness. How would you further the city's progress toward reducing homelessness as mayor?
Look, this is a huge problem, and it's the one problem that has gotten worse since I started this campaign. And I used to volunteer down at the community kitchen with my wife, and it's not a simple problem. As I've said for years, I think it really segments out to a third, and a third. A third of the homeless population roughly is really just down on their luck, and part of that is just better coordinating our fantastic nonprofit community to help coordinate resources. The job of the mayor is to be like an orchestra conductor, and very frankly, particularly during the time of COVID, we haven't really had that. So that has to do, I think, with resource coordination. Another big segment of the mentally ill population, or rather the homeless population, struggle with mental illness, and those folks need a different kind of help. And the county has got a program called Fuse that I look forward to expanding on with our partners at the county. I think they've got 150 beds funded now through federal grants, and that's going to put a big dent in it. So, and then very frankly, the police, in cases where we've got the segment that is just aggressively panhandling, the police need to be freed up to take care of that issue. And right now their hands are tied with an odd ordinance that only which only allows, or I should say, only prohibits aggressive panhandling in one kind of narrow area of the central business district rather than across Chattanooga.
Downtown Chattanooga was once a showcase and is now struggling to hold on to businesses. How can that be improved, and what factors have made downtown less appealing to businesses? Could the bid be at play?
Well, yeah, look, we need to, downtown is the living room and the kitchen for the whole community, and it's got to be appealing, not just for tourists, but for locals. And there's a bunch of things that need to happen. I think parking has a lot to do with that, very frankly. I think our downtown environment below about Fifth Street in Chattanooga has been sort of, and I'm not against the tourist economy. I support all of our great tourism here. I mean, the aquarium does a fantastic job, but it can't just be about tourism. And I talk to a lot of locals who just tell me it's too expensive or too difficult to come downtown. I think we can use some really innovative methods with the Park Mobile app to allow locals to park downtown at a free or reduced cost. And that will breathe some life and diversify the economy quite a bit more. Uh, our Chattanooga's stock and trade is our quality of life, and that role revolves around downtown. I also look forward to expanding the arts in downtown area and across Chattanooga's neighborhoods, because we need to focus on anything and everything that will make quality of life better in Chattanooga.
Our next set of questions will be about public safety. The first question is, Chattanooga saw a sharp increase in gun violence in 2020. How would you as mayor work to lower violent crime in the city?
Well, I think it starts with working more closely with the Chattanooga Police Department. I think I've got a good relationship with Chief Roddy. I've had some great conversations with Chief Roddy. And I think, look, I don't have any future political ambitions. I'm not trying to become the governor or the senator or anything of that nature. And I'm a very nonpartisan person. So what I'm interested in is the solutions that work best for the long-term future of Chattanooga. So I would work with Chief Roddy to look at any and all innovative ways to address the issue. I will say, being a small business guy, I think it starts with opportunity. People and kids in particular, without anything better to do, are going to get into trouble. So it starts with economic opportunity, and it starts with supporting education. And also, I think YFD centers are part of this as well. We've done some things to make it more difficult for kids to use and enjoy our rec centers. And I know a lot of old timers in Chattanooga who will tell you a rec center saved their life, kept them out of jail, kept them out of trouble. And we need to use rec centers in the neighborhoods, lower the barriers to let kids be kids and let them in there and play and stay off the streets and stay out of trouble.
Activists spent this summer protesting police brutality across the country and in Chattanooga, demanding defunding or divesting from the police. Would you consider defunding or divesting from CPD to reform? Or what other ways, if any, would you consider law enforcement reform?
So yeah, I'm not a defund the police guy. I do think the events of this summer were instructional, and I think we can't let that door close. It woke us up to some real realities around policing. I'm a big supporter of community policing, and our former chief Fred Fletcher is a friend and an endorser, and I would move the department in that direction still further. I mean, the department has already moved in that direction. I'm for some very sensible reform. I think we need a department that looks like the community. So I think we need to do a better job of police recruitment in minority communities, and part of that has to do with getting the pay scale competitive, because right now it's not. We lose a lot of officers to other places, and so and look, there are other things we can do around dealing with mental health calls. Other communities have done this, and I think we would look at best practices from other cities to try to figure out how we allow police to do their jobs best, which is to fight crime, and peel out some of the other secondary things that get us into trouble, like dealing with mental health calls, and see where we can work with social workers more constructively to solve the problem.
Many activists called, and some candidates have called, for the removal of current high-ranking officers, including Chief Roddy. What, if any, changes in CPD leadership would you implement if elected mayor?
I wouldn't change the leadership of CPD. I have great confidence in Chief Roddy. I have great confidence in Glenn Scruggs as well. Listen. I think the department is on the right track. And as I said, I look forward to meeting regularly with Chief Roddy, which I'm understanding is not really happening now. And really, if you think about it in a way, the police are social workers too, right? Where every city employee, in a sense, is a social worker. And so we need to meet with them and think about more constructive and creative ways that we can incorporate the police department into that community policing model to help lift the entire community up.
Many have questioned the conduct of activists given vandalism, disruption to businesses, and confrontations with police. Others have criticized law enforcement for restricting public access to public areas, surveillance of activists on private property, and the nature of some arrests. If similar unrest came up under your term as mayor, how would you weigh restrictions for activists and police presence? What would you have done differently?
Well, I think the most important thing to note here is that I've got a great background in crisis leadership and crisis management, and I lead from the front. So I think a lot of it has to do with visibility. COVID or no COVID, if I had to go out there in a Tyvek suit, I would be out front, standing in the gap and leading and helping to kind of calm the waters. And I think Chief Roddy actually did a fantastic job of doing that, but he shouldn't have had to do it himself, very frankly. So I think that's where it begins. And look, again, I don't have future political ambitions. I just really want to bring Chattanooga together and what's best for Chattanooga. So I'm about creative and look, I'm not afraid of confrontation. Let's put it that way. I believe that the constructive confrontation is how we arrive at the right answer and move forward. So what I'd be looking to do in every case is bring the differing parties together and arrive at a solution that works best for Chattanooga.
So now we'll move into some more miscellaneous questions. The first of which is, have you received a COVID-19 vaccine? And if not, will you when you're available?
I have not, but absolutely I will. I look forward to receiving the vaccine.
Do you believe in transparency to be one of the important issues in a mayor's office? And if so, how will you ensure that that continues through your term? Will you grant interviews with reporters and answer their questions on a regular basis?
I'll see your transparency and raise you one. I mean, I plan to have the most transparent administration in recent memory. I believe in true and radical transparency. I think that's one of the problems we've had. Look, the city is most successful when we're having this sort of living room conversation about all the topics, the good, the bad, and the ugly, the uncomfortable, and all that. And because, again, I don't have future political ambition, I'm willing to keep the difficult and uncomfortable stuff on the table until it's fixed. And I'm a true believer that the truth will set you free. So am I perfect? No. Do I bat 1,000? Nope. But I can tell you, if we have a problem, we'll deal with it. We won't try to sweep it under the rug. We'll keep it on the table and we'll fix it.
What should the relationship between the mayor and city council look like? How will you cultivate relationships with city council members?
Look, it should be much more transparent to the public and much more congenial, I would say. I would show up to city council meetings. I think even if the conversations have taken place around bills and legislation prior to that, I think it's important for the public to be able to see that dialogue. I would also reappoint, because there was a time at which the city council had this person, a position to do budget analysis rather to do budget analysis on pending legislation, to not only help them understand it, both in terms of the fiscal impact and other considerations, but to help the public understand it. So I don't think this is a trivial matter. I certainly would not run roughshod over the council at any time. I think if I can't convince the public and or the council that an idea is the best idea for the commonwealth of Chattanooga, then I'm probably not on the right track anyway.
And the final question is, would you support public money for a new Chattanooga Lookout Stadium?
Under the right circumstances, yes. I think there's a way to do that that is fair to all parties. I'm a big fan of the but-for rule, which is essentially if the project in question were not going to happen, but for the support, then it's something that the public should look at. However, I will say one of the interesting things that's probably different from a lot of other candidates, if we're going to use pilots and TIFs, which I'm sure we will, to help certain projects, to incentivize projects, we need to require that they use local labor and local contractors. It makes no sense at all for me to use public money to incentivize projects, to have a contractor from Charlotte or Birmingham come up here to do the work. That makes no sense at all to me. So in this specific instance, I think there's a way to make the Lookout Stadium work. I certainly don't want to lose the Lookouts, and my fear is that I'm guessing that were we not able to get them in a new facility, we would probably lose the team.